UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Amina gange ndetubona Kiranda Amina mu company eya WIB Uganda Limited ndi member. Wemba member company eno weyeida twalinga tutuli bulungi nga abakyala abe wakawaka. Abakyala abe wakawaka tuwemera kubaami baife nga bonkana abajamu nandanga twidi nti abakyala tebakozesa ki nanda. UN Women weyeida yatuteekateeka yatwegesa okulunda engege nga abakyala. Twatandika beno okudulunda n'okudirisa n'okolaki twafunamu ng'abakyala aba Bugiri district. Abakyala aba Bugiri district sofa tuli abakyala 14 abakola project eno eya WIB. Abakyala 14 twayawula mu sectors. Mulimu abakyala ba production abaliisa, mwaba abakyala ba validation abongera engege omutindo bayongerako omutindo, twaba n'abakyala ba harvesting aba harvestinga, twaba n'abakyala abakola aba marketing. Sector donna diri trained era didi kyedikola ki kyedikola. Project eno tufunyemu nga abakyala. Government yaife ne ya Uganda njebaza okujja kujanga batulingirira mu nga abakyala abana Uganda. Eri kujanga eturobingira ebibiina bingi. We have UWEB, baleta parish development model. We have myoga. Byona biri kwida muki mu bakyala oba mu bantu abaki aba Uganda.
Juko.
Yo.
Wachikuwa. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Uganda, haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a poultry project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. But what you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that.
Okay.
The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
A lovely morning to you. Thank you so much for being with us on UBC TV. Robert Chirabo Nyonyi Ntono. On this Friday, Good Morning Uganda Extra, where I'm going to be discussing something very interesting, and that is social protection. Have you heard of social protection? Well, today we want to look at the Social Protection National Dialogue 2024 that will be happening on the 29th, and that is Tuesday. Now, look on your calendar, 29th of October. That is going to be Tuesday, and we are going to be having this dialogue as a wind-up of the Social Protection Month. But remember, I'm not the best to discuss this because I have guests in studios who are very competent, and I'll be representing your viewer by asking what you ought to ask. Now, I have two beautiful ladies with me this morning, very smartly dressed for a Friday, I must say, and I have Sait Akatukunda, who happens to be the Senior Programs Officer, Communications, Extending Social Protection Program, Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development. Good morning and welcome.
Thank you very much, Robert, for having me this morning. Good morning, our viewers.
And at the extreme end, I have a usual suspect on issues of social protection. Now, this is none other than Gloria Naka Jubi, who happens to be the Advocacy and Communications Leader at Uganda Parliamentary Forum on Social Protection. A lovely morning to you.
Very good morning, Robert. Thank you for having us here. And good morning, viewers.
You know, most of the times when we talk about social protection in Uganda, we run to people who have clocked 60 and above. And most of the times, apart from Gloria, when I'm talking issues of social protection, I usually have that age. And one of the things that comes out is SAGE. Now also there is some fund that they give people who have clocked 60 to invest and do business, but that's not the area to focus today. But even before you go any further side, when we talk about social protection, what are we referring to? Because many think social protection is that at the extreme end. You've worked, you're done, now you need social protection.
Thank you. Social protection is a human right. It's a basic service. And when we talk about social protection, we mean public and private interventions that are implemented in order to safeguard vulnerable persons or persons against, you know, income insecurities, life shocks, and any other kind of circumstances that might bring, you know, the undesirable livelihood in their system. So in the National Social Protection Policy of 2015, social protection is categorized in two pillars. There's a pillar one is about social security, and under social security, that's where we have contributory support, we have non-contributory support. Examples of the contributory interventions are things like NSSF, like the Public Service Pension Scheme that people contribute to safeguard themselves later, that they can access maybe after retirement or something. Then the non-contributory system is where now we have the direct income support, the cash transfers, for example, that we give to the older persons.
The little but much.
The little that much. You know, you know it's
yes.
really done a lot. So pillar one really tackles that social security system. Then now pillar two is where we have the social care and support services. That's where we have now issues of skilling, issues of rehabilitation, basically to provide the support and care to vulnerable groups of persons. That's where we have the community-based rehabilitation services, all those geared towards empowering people, empowering communities, not to fall in very undesirable, you know, levels of poverty and all. But now, recently we developed a national social protection strategy, which actually now looks at social protection across the life cycle. We are saying everyone, whether young or old or, you know, working class, we all need social protection. We all need social protection. And so when we talk of social protection, we are looking at interventions that can be implemented to support every phase of life. The interventions we can do for children, for the women, for the youth, for the older persons, and for special groups like persons with disabilities. So all that is supposed to empower everyone is what we call social protection. Yes.
Now, having said that and well-defined social protection and the two different phases or approaches to social protection, this takes me to Gloria. Gloria, we're in the Social Protection Month. Briefly tell us more about this and why social protection.
Okay. Thank you very much, Robert, for that question. Why the Social Protection Month and why social protection? I know SITE has elaborately explained to us what the social protection system is. And so for us, we have what we call the social protection community of practice, yes. So this brings together different stakeholders from MDAs, people like SITE,
from non-state agencies, you have CSOs, you have development partners, you have researchers, I mean that's from the academia, but also you have really people that are just keen on social protection. So we have created this platform where we come together and share knowledge, learn, and also innovate, kind of share experiences. If you're implementing an intervention, let's say in Arua, can we share with someone who is in southwestern Uganda to see what can we pick from one end of the country to the other, but also how does that inform policy, how does that inform programming going forward, or maybe to test can that actually work. So we have that platform that we call the community of practice. So that community of practice, since last year, we have since come up with what we call the Social Protection Month, whereby, I mean, during the year, you have all these engagements, webinars, you have all these conferences, workshops, you can call them mini dialogues. So now we did agree that we want to have that month where we actually do aggressive social protection awareness creation, where we do aggressive social protection advocacy, especially around the issues that we have identified all throughout the year. So we want to see things around financing, increasing social protection coverage, because at the end of the day, that is what we want to achieve. And then also we want to, it is during this month where we actually go out to the field and kind of get to see what is exactly happening on the ground. If they say there is a NutriCash program happening in West Nile, for example, we need to carry people, let's say, from the other regions to go to West Nile to kind of have like a on-ground experience of this program. So during this month also we do like aggressive media engagements, we do, but also this year we've had a lot of engagements that have included international participants. So we've had practitioners from other countries, from Zambia, from Kenya, from from the region, really South Africa, come in and share their own experiences of social protection for us to be able to pick lessons. Yeah, so this is really a month for us to reflect as people in the social protection space, for us to be able to also celebrate the milestones, the things we've achieved, because now we've started to track, since our social protection month started last year, so we are now tracking, okay, we had the social protection month last year, so now what have we achieved? What is the justification that we should have another social protection month this year? It is more like kind of an accountability. And we have seen that there is quite a number of things that have happened, yeah? But also there is still a lot that needs to be done. I mean, we've seen the census showed us the other day, like the population, the young people is still growing, yeah. But the question is, so for us, we start to look at that data from a social protection perspective and start to ask ourselves, okay, we have this population, like a very huge young population. What interventions, what social protection interventions are in place? Are they adequate? Yeah, that's a very big question. If they are there, are they, what is the coverage? How many young people are actually benefiting from this? And you know, as site has indicated, you have, when we're looking at the life cycle social protection, we want to see that the different risks and vulnerabilities for the children, for the young people, for the working population, then for the older persons, we want to see that for each of those vulnerabilities, there is an intervention. But if there is that intervention, we need to assess that and see, okay, is it adequate? Is it sufficient? What is the coverage? So really that's what we do during this month. And I mean, of course, we try, when we talk about the working population, we all look at NSSF, but we've had these conversations where we ask ourselves, okay, for NSSF, for a worker, is it just the old age, the after work that is the risk that I have? Don't I have things like healthcare that actually really put a strain on me? Don't I have issues like, the working population has issues like school fees. Every time the term is starting, you see people struggling with school fees. And we know in the NSSF Act, there's that provision whereby the board has the mandate to design, NSSF has, with the guidance of the board, is able to, is supposed to design products that respond to the vulnerabilities of their members. But we have not seen that. So what we see now, NSSF is a lump sum kind of, whereby when you hit that eligibility age, that is 60, yeah, you get all your money out. You take it out.
And now there's also midterm benefits.
Yeah, there's also midterm access.
Save for 10 years.
So well, we can say, yeah,
there's
a bit of there are a bit of modifications happening there. But the question is that all? Can we do better? Can we actually look at our member? Can we look at the Ugandan worker and see what are those issues? What are those risks for Ugandan worker? And if we have this, because we're saying it's a social security, and social security is not just about a pension, yeah? It's really a lot of things. There is basic health, access to health care. That is one of the social security minimum services that you should be getting. So we are asking ourselves, okay, if we do not have a national health insurance scheme, yeah, can we, for instance, for NSSF, have a product that actually responds to that? Housing is one of the biggest issues.
Yes.
Yeah. Can we have a product from NSSF? There was that debate where we can actually use our NSSF contributions as collateral to access mortgage. Yeah, it's a debate that catches on fire and then kind of dies out. So I think there is still more around social protection, issues around teenage pregnancies. So now that becomes a risk when it comes to adolescents. Yeah, so you need to look at all those things and start to analyze, okay, where are we as a country? How can we respond? And this is what we do during this month.
Now, this brings me to sight. When you talk about you analyze, you detail, I want a brief assessment of how we are performing as a country in terms of social protection. Because most of the times when we talk about social protection, she was very elaborate. She even went into the savers funds, the different things like that. But you find that I think our main focus has been on when it comes to old age as a country. When you clock 60, that is where we've had most of our emphasis. Yet Gloria mentioned very pertinent issues like school fees, health. You know, today, if you have a serious illness, it is more or less a death sentence to you. You're diagnosed with cancer, my friend. That's why you find many are lining up in churches for miracles. Not to say that there are no miracles and God doesn't heal. Please, get me right. But many would have gone to hospitals. But because they can't afford that, then they go for, even the hospitals, it is him who works. But let me leave that, that at that level. So, how are we as a country doing in terms of social protection? And I want you to encompass in not only at the tail end, where someone, they usually want to say they're retired but not expired, things like that. But let's first factor here.
Thank you very much, Robert. Like Gloria said, there are quite a number of vulnerabilities at different levels of life. Issues of school-going children, they need school feeding, you know, products. The young children, 0 to 5, they need
street kids you find when you're driving through. Social protection is very vital.
They need immunization services, they need healthcare services. We need health insurance scheme, which is not yet in place, but it is in process. And then we have this old age population, which is also quite big. Over 1.5 million persons are above 80 and above. We have persons with some form of disability in our population. About 12.5% have some form of disability. And then, like she said, we have a huge number of young people. Of our population, about
actually,
50%.
In the interest of time,
children.
I need an assessment of how we are doing as a country.
We have, as government, are doing something. We have done something really in terms of social protection interventions to mitigate some of those vulnerabilities, because the statistics really are clear, you know, the poverty levels that we are experiencing and all. But when you look at the life cycle approach, interventions for children are still generally social protection coverage is still very low. It is still very low. Less than 3% of our population access some form of social protection, some form of support. And that's really not a good picture. But there are interventions going on. We are doing a lot of benchmarking from countries that are doing very well. As we speak, there's a team of high-level delegates who are in Pakistan. They are benchmarking issues of developing a national social registry for Uganda. You know, that could even be a starting point for us to ensure that we are very deliberate when we are targeting persons to receive any type of intervention. So a social registry for Uganda is very, very critical. We are doing a lot in terms of programs targeting the youth. There's a youth livelihood program. The women are getting some support. There's a GROW program happening now. We are working on a strategy to support the informal sector receive some form of social protection. Though NSSF now opened up for voluntary saving scheme, that even you, Robert, can start voluntarily saving with NSSF, not necessarily waiting on your employer to put some percentage there. So all those small interventions, they are in place, but they are still at a very low coverage. And so the advocacy we are doing is that we need to think as Ugandans, we need to reflect together to ensure that we do inclusive strategic thinking and programming for social protection. Social protection that is all inclusive, social protection that is gender sensitive, because when shocks come, you saw what happened in COVID. Women and men were affected alike. They all at a certain level lost jobs, they fell sick, they had children to go to school, and they were vulnerable. So social protection should not be targeting one particular sector or category of persons. It should be all inclusive, because at the end of the day, we are looking at social protection being protective, being preventive, preventing people from falling into poverty, and it should be transformative. It should be able to support people and transform their lives, increase their household incomes, increase their income security levels, so that at the end of the day, they live a dignified life.
Now, we'll be going for a short break, but when we return, Gloria has mentioned earlier on that they have been doing some work. And we want to see or hear from her what has been some of the outstanding achievements when you talk about a 3% access to social protection. And we have civil society, we have the technocrats, we have the parliamentary forum, we have the ministry. We are still at 3%. So let's look at some of the achievements to boast about when we return.
Live from UBC studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
In a nation hungry for truth, a world where every story matters, there exists a beacon of trust and reliability. For decades, they've been our voice and our window to the world, holding the mirror of our history. With 4 TV stations and 11 radio channels spanning 27 languages, they stand as guardians of information, defenders of truth. With Mascari Heritage Advantage, they uphold every citizen's right to reliable and free information. Their archived stories shaped our past and illuminate our present. Yet now, as new challenges arise and the world evolves, their mission faces its greatest test yet. Be part of our journey and let's navigate the unknown, uncover the untold, and safeguard our future together. Tune into your public broadcaster, for it is the intersection of trust and truth. Because to UBC, your story, and every voice matters. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Amazina gange ndetibwa Nakiranda Amina mu kampani eya WIB Uganda Limited ndi member. Wemba member kampani eno weyeida twalinga tutuli bulungi ng'abakyala ab'ewakawaka. Ng'abakyala ab'ewakawaka tuwemerera ku baami baife nga bonkana abajjamu nanda nga twiddi nti abakyala tebakozesa ki nanda. UN Women weyeida yatuteekateeka yatwegesa okulunda engege ng'abakyala. Twatandika beeno okudulunda n'okudiriisa n'okola ki twafunamu ng'abakyala ababujiri district. Abakyala ababujiri district sofa tuli abakyala 14 abakola project eya WIB. Abakyala 14 twayawula mu sectors. Mulimu abakyala ba production, abaliisa, mwaba abakyala ba validation, abongera engege omutindo bayongerako omutindo. Twaba n'abakyala ba harvesting, abaharvestinga. Twaba n'abakyala abakola aba marketing. Sector donna diri trained era diri kyedikola ki kyedikola. Project eno tufunyemu ng'abakyala. Government yaife ne ya Uganda njebaza. Okujja kujanga batulingirira mu ng'abakyala abana Uganda. Eri kujanga etulobingira ebibiina bingi. We have UWEB, baleta parish development model. We have Myoga. Byonna biri kwida mu ki mu bakyala oba mu bantu abaki aba Uganda.
Mukoke Fish Farmers Association.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Welcome back from that break, and thank you so much for being with us on UBC TV. It is the Extra, and we are looking at social protection. Now, Tuesday, the 29th of this very month, we'll be having stakeholders meet on issues of social protection. And with me in studios, I have two ladies very passionate about social protection. Now, before we went for a break, I had earlier told you that Gloria will be giving us some of the outstanding achievements of the struggle to ensure that we increase our coverage of social protection to Ugandans, regardless of age, to ensure that people are secure. Because what social protection does, in a layman's language, it gives you a shock absorber. That an event of uncertainty, you have a safe landing because there's social protection. Let's look at what you can say we've achieved for this time.
Thank you. Well, just like site indicated, we are, when it comes to coverage, we're at 3%. The recent ILO report puts that at 3.1. Well, that's an increase.
That's the International Labour Organization?
Yes. Okay. That's an increase from the last time they did that same report. We were at 2.8%. Yeah, but of course, some key things that pop out from that report, you realize that even when it comes to the working population, who you would think would be able to contribute to their own social security, there's just about 20% that have some kind of social security contributions. So that NSSF you see with all its trillions, it's really covering just a very, very small percentage of our workforce. So most of the people out there without any kind of social security.
Very unfortunate.
Yes. But still we can say we've seen some milestones that we can actually speak to and celebrate. And I think for us, really, the ministry developing the National Social Protection Strategy, I think for us has been one of the key milestones that we speak of in this period. From the last year's National Dialogue to now, it is a very, very huge milestone, because you know what that does is it gives you kind of a blueprint, for a lack of a better word, or a guide that when anyone wants to come and implement social protection interventions in this country, there is some kind of a guide, yeah? We know as a country, this is where we want to go, yeah? These are the interventions, because those are clearly highlighted. These are the interventions that we want to have. So when you come, because very understandably, most of our interventions really are still supported by development partners. But at least we have here where the government is saying, okay, this is what we want, yeah, so can you invest here? So I think for us, the National Social Protection Strategy is a key milestone that we are looking at. And also the other thing is we've been having discussions around reducing the age of the Senior Citizens Grant, yeah, but now we can say that at least in that, on that front.
That is where they're given some money for investment?
No, the Senior Citizens Grant, the 25,000.
SAGE?
Yes, SAGE.
Okay, yes.
Okay, the SAGE. So we are saying that one of the key things that has come through, and SITE can speak to this further, is to have, well, we've not seen the age for everyone, but at least for persons with disabilities, that has been reduced. And I think that's a very huge milestone, because one thing that we've come to appreciate is we always say that for people with disabilities, theirs is like double vulnerability. Yeah, they have a disability, but then they also have those other vulnerabilities that come because of their age. So there's that double vulnerability. So having for them their age reduced to access the Senior Citizens Grant is very, very critical, is very, very important. But also for us, one of the things that you cannot say that you can touch and feel, but the fact that we have debates, or also we have conversations around social protection, yeah, but also having social protection as one of the critical tools that government is looking at to be able to reduce poverty, but also a tool for development. I think that is very, very critical. So raising the profile of social protection in national discourse, in national conversations, I think that is a huge milestone for us, because at least we know that there is growing awareness, there is growing appreciation of what social protection can do, and now we are saying, and of course to highlight this month that we are celebrating, we have the theme. The theme for this month is social protection as an enabler for human capital development. And here we're saying, okay, as we develop NDP4, yeah, there's quite a number of indicators for human capital development in NDP4. But we are saying, okay, social protection has potential to actually star the achievement of these indicators that we've put up for NDP4 under human capital development component. And we are saying that government now needs to take advantage of this tool that is social protection to be able now to achieve the indicators under human capital development. We're talking about issues around nutrition, and so we are saying, okay, can we be able to look at issues like, let's say, school feeding? Yeah, it's one of the areas that we are looking at. A number of children are in schools and they can barely access lunch. Can we find interventions? Can we find those avenues that are actually can fit in our kinds of circumstances to be able to support school feeding?
Now, Gloria, when you talk about all these and talking about government prioritizing social protection, I was looking at budget's allocation for the financial year 2023-2024, and almost all aspects of social protection. Talk about the SAGE, talk about this empowerment grant for older persons, talk about persons with disability. All of them, their budgets were disappointing. Actually, many were getting less than what they got the previous. And when you talk about SAGE, it made things complicated. I don't know if now they're going to give the money they have when it stops, they'll stop, and yet we have more people. Our housing and national population census just showed us that, you see, we are having more people aging, and our life expectancy now clocks to 68. This is someone who has already entered about that. So your advocacy, your push.
Yeah.
I won't put this to her because, but do you think you're making a breakthrough in any way?
Yeah, well, there's something that we've learned over time around advocacy. Like, we celebrate small wins. Yeah. And as a country, we can say we are currently at about, we invest 0.7% of our GDP. It's less than 1% of GDP going to social protection. And for us, we are, that's the reason for advocacy, by the way. We are saying that this is a missed opportunity. There's something here that actually enables you to have development that is inclusive, that makes sure that you do not miss out the vulnerable in your communities, the vulnerable, the most vulnerable of your people. And we are saying, okay, can you look here? Yeah, I mean, the thing is, a lot of these things take time. Let's agree. True. But should we stop? No, that's the more reason we should keep speaking about these things. And we can say, okay, at least for now, we can speak to the senior citizens grant. We still have it in the budget. It is still a budget item. We might have issues of shortfalls every year. Actually, every year we have shortfalls around the senior citizens grant. But the question is, should we drop that intervention? Definitely no, because we've seen a lot of the impact it is having beyond just the person that receives this money, but also the children that live with these older persons, entire communities being transformed because of this small 25,000 that these people receive, or 75 that they receive quarterly. So I think for us, yes, there's been challenges around financing, and that is a very critical advocacy area that we have. And our key question has been, and that's why we keep having these kinds of international collaborations, lessons sharing, benchmarking, to really get to learn for the countries that have moved a step, but also understandably on the continent, really, the data, the statistics are not really that good. It's still a challenge. But also the question has been, is it because these countries are resource constrained? No, the issue has been, it's about choices, policy choices. Priorities. Priorities. So most of these governments are opting for investing in infrastructure, things that they can actually see. But then forgetting the fact that investing in your human capital is the most important investment that you can make as a country. Because at the end of the day, you're going to reap returns from this population. But also, I mean, it is an issue of a social contract.
Definitely.
Yeah, it is an issue of a social contract. We've given you power to really manage resources on our behalf. So can we see you investing in us?
But we have some good progress, because I think now social protection has been well positioned in our NDP4 under Objective 2 as an engine. For the right word, maybe if I may use that word, it has been put as an engine to really steer human capital development. So that alone, to recognize that social protection has that capacity, and then put it in our plans, in our frameworks and policies, really it's an achievement for us.
Well, something to be proud of. And I must say, I also got impressed when you hear government saying, let's focus on the 39% of our population that are not in the money economy, to bring them into the money economy. That is also another concept of recognizing that we must push for social protection. The question then would be, is social protection giving people money? Talk of SAGE, we talk of financial inclusion, is that social protection? But that will be something for another day. I don't want to open a Pandora's box right now. Now, Charlie site, let's go to the Social Protection National Dialogue that is going to be happening on the 29th.
Yes.
Please, what is this all about? Who are invited and venue?
Thank you very much. It's going to be a platform for reflection, like Gloria said. We're going to have some panel discussions to really think together. And the invites, you're also invited, by the way, Robert. The media is very well invited, because we need these messages out. We need the media to help us amplify the voice of social protection as an enabler for human capital development. We have invited quite a good number of people, including the MDAs, the ministries, departments and agencies, civil society organizations, the academia. We have a keynote speaker who is the head of social protection in Eastern and Southern in the World Bank. We have development partners who have really walked the social protection journey with us. And those include World Food Programme, UNICEF, International Labour Organization, the Embassy of Ireland, the Danish Embassy, the British High Commission, the Dutch Embassy. All those are coming, and many more that I haven't mentioned. We have a whole range of categories and dignitaries coming from various, institutions of government, private and public, but also civil society, and everyone that is passionate about social protection, really, because we need to realize that everyone needs social protection. So the time is now for us to reflect together and also engage government, continue having these conversations to ensure that the coverage for the programs that we so far have is somehow stepped up, so that we have more people coming on board, more people being transformed economically, and thereafter we have a very successful economic situation in our country.
I look forward to seeing that we have a very successful social protection in our country, so that some of these challenges we face today, the truth is because we've not had that much priority to social protection. The street children you see out there, when you're driving through, when you're walking through, there's an element of lack of social protection.
Yes.
The many men that die after retirement, and someone asks why there are more widows than the men. Because you see, when a man retires work, he still has to fend for the family. Contrary sometimes to the woman who will be telling him, we don't have sugar, we don't have this. Now these diseases attack them and kill them. Some of them, if there is social protection, they would live longer than they do. So it's something we should prioritize. Now I must let these ladies go and enjoy the weekend. It's Friday today. But before I do that, I'll just give each of them a minute for their parting shot, and I'll begin with Gloria.
Okay, thank you so much for having us here. And I think for me, very critical is that as a country, we need to be able to be deliberate about where our population is, and that is the informal sector. So we need to be deliberate of what social protection interventions do we have there, so that we do not grow another huge vulnerable population in old age. Can we target them now? Very important.
Thank you so much, Gloria. And Said?
Mine is to appeal to everyone that has been invited to come and join us on Tuesday. We shall be at the Serena Conference Hall. It's a room big enough to accommodate us. And request that we continue this conversation about social protection across the life cycle. And also I appeal to the media, the stations, our very good partners, that we continue bringing these issues out, because we need ownership of whatever we are doing in terms of social protection service delivery.
Well, thank you so much, Said and Gloria, but above all, our viewer, thank you so much for being with us all the way from 6:30 till now. Social protection through the entire life cycle is what we're advocating for. And we know that when we do this, we have shock absorbers when uncertainty strikes. Have a lovely weekend. May the good Lord bless you. See you Monday, God willing.